Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking at the next part of Text Talks Battletech the Charger. This is going to be Chapter 2, and then there was an Amaris. Oh boy. I cut the last one short because I got to this and like, you know what? I'm going to watch this in one go. There is no way I'm not checking this out without thinking, shit, I know what... Or to put it simply, Star League ends because of an Amaris. And now we're getting the family story. And, I am hyped. So, if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. It's from the Black Pants, Legion, and Tex. Hit it up. They're great. Do that. And if you like, subscribe here because more of this. Yeah. Also, because people will occasionally subscribe and then they let me know when more of this comes out, which I really appreciate because I'm horrible about keeping up on things. I only know about things because people tell me, and I actually really appreciate that. Thank you. So let's get started. And then there was an Amaris. Ooh, I like how it's fading to black, too.
While the Golden Age was good for most, the great houses were in fact, after the reunification, not happy at all about having diminished power under the Star League. As
even
such,
if the money's
great
there,
house lords,
power is what they want,
very few people supposedly imbued with enough wisdom to understand the benefits of the Security Cooperation Initiative, which they themselves had signed and shaped, trying to limit the growth of the SLDF by preventing recruitment in their territories. Because that's what adults do. So Executive Order 34 fixed that, in theory, for a time. It patched the problem, at least until new ones arrived, which they soon did.
And right there is probably the absolute best way to describe the entire SLDF. They patched a problem and then new ones came up. That's basically how everything went. The only reason they're remembered as like this high-tech super state is because everything was blown to so much little pieces, if even that, afterwards, that admittedly a bureaucratic nightmare of graft and corruption would, by comparison, be high-tech. Also the stuff from the Terran hegemony, which actually was high-tech, if maybe not properly utilized.
The states of the Capellan Confederation, the Draconis Combine, suggested that the bulk of those volunteering for military service in the SLDF were criminals fleeing the law of their respective states, which was true. It absolutely was. If you consider honest criticism of the government and freely expressing your opinions in public a punishable crime.
Which Lao and the Combine would, because they're basically police states. Yeah. That's fair.
Executive Order 35 fixed that problem by saying that those so-called fleeing criminals would, if caught, be then swiftly remanded for prosecution, but...
Yeah, but they'd have to be then sent back to the territory they're leaving, and honestly, it's easy to send people to border wars when you're fighting a bunch of border wars, which aren't in territories you're technically protecting. Also, why is Doctor Strange in here with a goatee? Is it like his evil clone? I know we've seen this art before, and I still think it's weird.
Under Star League law. I see it as this. If the executive orders were the setup, the Council Edict of 2650 is the punchline. Strategically, these two acts furthered the SLDF as the sole legitimate unified Leviathan force in the inner sphere by manpower alone. But some people are not paying attention to a single word I'm saying, because all they heard was me say Amaris earlier. Alright.
I mean, how does Amaris relate to what you're saying, though? I'm actually getting it backwards. What? It would be really easy to get saboteurs into it because they're taking people who are criminals. So you just have to get a bunch of people who are on your side to say, I'm running away from this horrible person. And you get a bunch of plants. Yeah, that is the downside of taking anyone. You take anyone.
So, the Amaris family.
Yes.
We talked about them before. I made a list. The least of their sins was ruining Venus because they didn't understand how hard space was.
Oh yeah, that
they
laser.
Also ruined many other things.
I'm still going to give him credit on this one. That was an improvement. He was ruined well before Amaris. Now, if it is actually that his dad just happened to have an accident, then yeah, okay, it wouldn't be that horrible. I mean, it's still horrible because this guy took over, but... I mean, we all kind of assume it was assassination of his dad because that's kind of what seems to happen with a lot of people. Him, though? He's a dreamer who doesn't actually stop to think about what he's doing. He's a dumbass who didn't stop to think. And at every step of the way, the nicest thing Amaris could do would be to off him. And honestly, there was probably ways he could have gone about it that were completely rational. And he could have pled, I did this for the people because he's gone power mad. Of course he didn't, because he was power mad at that time, so it doesn't really matter.
For other reasons. Then Kerensky retired him, and that was that. But the Amaris family has a long and storied history. And in this context, I must say that the founding member of that house, as a ruler of the Rimworld's Republic, was, prior to that, a member of a foreign intelligence unit, empowered during a time of exceptional national and...
Okay, so we're going all the way back to the one who was investigating the Star League when it was created by the Camerons. And she did that investigation about this random thing that they had nothing about at the end. And then she suddenly fled to the absolute edge of the entire inner sphere and never came back after finding nothing. Yeah, there's definitely a story there. I love this. So it's going back to her. Also, I recognize the style. This must be some of the art the text commissioned. God, this is such good stuff. It actually took me a second to realize it's probably not canon. As far as I'm concerned, though, it probably is.
And international crisis that later and suddenly retired to the periphery, who then suddenly befriended and then somehow replaced the head of an existing dynasty for all time. It's, well, very interesting, I'll say that.
That last part is always the weird one. I could see hiding, but suddenly taking over the other dynasty, that sounds weird. Like, you know there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but considering they're literally fleeing from what is probably the, well, admittedly, dumbasses that the Camerons can be, they're either great or absolutely terrible. And for the one in her time, he was both. He was absolutely terrible until he finally became great. But it took a long time. What is going on with this, though?
And as evidence, the family has an interesting theme, so coincidence is a very uncomfortable word to use as a historian in this case.
Yeah.
In 2650, the Star League Council heard some interesting news.
Whoa.
In a 3-month window, the room...
Wow. I realized that the Steiners got a bigger area, but I never really realized just how big the Rimworld Republic was. I knew it was large, I just always thought it was thinner. It might just be the depiction of it in this art. Also, Merrick has a really big piece of Steiner space. I didn't realize how much of that they ended up gobbling up. They really did benefit from everyone else doing the work for them, didn't they?
News. In a 3-month window, the Rimworld Republic, under the leadership of an Amaris, had gone from 8 regiments of mechs to 15.
Oh.
This was problematic. The 2 executive orders had, in theory, made the SLDF the sole force of power in the Inner Sphere, and yet it was an invested statement to the opposite effect. And as this is the Inner Sphere, if the other state noticed, they'd do likewise. Star League regulations be damned. While the SLDF was truly mighty, it wasn't bigger than everyone combined, and it could not be everywhere at once. So rather than sending the SLDF into the periphery, which likely drew oceans of cold sweat from the officer classes who'd actually...
Really? They have what looks like someone who's in a uniform, drawing a pistol while they have a peace symbol on their shoulder. I guess they must be peacekeeping. Violent peacekeeping. The most effective kind. Because if everyone's dead, there can be no more violence. You know, I'm joking, but literally there are people who think that's actually a good solution. And ironically, it's kind of effed up. I'm aware.
Studied the last dust-up, the Star League decided to bury the whole issue with a new law. And this law changed how many weapons each great house could have. And as you might guess, that number was going to be less than the Star League Defense Forces stockpile.
Yeah, also, if you believe for a second that anyone actually followed that, officially, yes, everyone officially definitely followed that. I don't believe for a second that any house actually had that followed. They just had it off the books. They were mercenaries who weren't affiliated with us, but they won't take any contract that we don't approve in advance. Officially. And officially, they won't take any contract we don't approve in advance.
Your initial reaction is not wrong, as yes, it was a stopgap, and an imperfect one. It was an unwelcome addition to an unbalanced equation. This edict in theory prevented war, but it was a dream. A dream based on the SLDF of being able to do all the things at once, and if they failed, die trying to save the state. And to their credit, most of them did. but I've already told their tragedy in full.
You know, I finally just remembered her. I was just forgetting. I just forgot, and then I remembered, and it's like she was so freaking cool. And then Jade Falcon. I've heard they became cool later on. And, you know, less mustache-twirlingly evil sometimes. Much later. Much later.
It is from this very place that the Charger comes from. With the great houses agreeing to the Edict of 2650, even if grumbling, peace was a guarantee in writing, backed by the sterling dollar, held in check with the SLDF. And with one stroke of the pen, the Starleague...
Wait, did they put Woody Woodpecker on there? I know this is non-canon art. It's done by some of the guys that are commissioned by Tex. And honestly, I love it because that's the kind of thing that people would actually doodle on there. I don't even watch that cartoon. I saw it a little bit as a kid. It's annoying as hell. But it just has such a good look to it.
Defense Force was by now, by default, the largest prime customer of all war material in the Inner Sphere. If you made weapons, your choice was clear. You could fill SLDF.
Are those crabs? Yeah, I think those are crabs and Urbies? Huh, landing. Oh, amphibious landing vehicles. Huh. I guess that makes sense. Not everyone would just have a dropship. They might have aquatic deployment units as well. Neat. People actually look really tall by comparison, though.
SLDF procurement contracts, or you could go out of business. As you'd expect, with all the money in one giant bucket and a prolonged peace, you have the exact recipe for what made the Charger. It was born in a world that was new and crazy and never sustainable. To prevent the loss of jobs, prestige, or to deliberately frustrate any House Army's secret rearmament attempts.
Sorry, I love these bits of art where you see all of it pulled apart, the people working on it with the welding goggles. Oh, they have an entire suite of mechanical components sticking onto the arm and the Normally when I look at like 70s, 80s style art, I'm like, this is so bad. Here though, they're focusing on the right things. It's literally the repair points. You can see the blast damage, how they're taking out, rewiring everything, checking it. They even have cable management going on down here with it all bundled together. Sorry, this is my happy place right now.
Treat any House Army's secret rearmament attempts. The Starleague was now buying everything in vast quantities in perpetuity. Even in such a uniquely competitive environment, the Charger...
That's how they stop rearmament, making sure no one else has any stock to buy. Honestly, at that point, intentionally wasting money on dumb shit might actually be better because you don't have to buy all the good stock. You just have to make sure there's no good stock to buy in the first place. I guess if they didn't have any external enemies who actually became an issue later on, like Amaris, that would have probably worked. It's a stupid solution, but it's just corrupt enough that the people who you'd be fighting against would also buy into it like idiots.
The Charger still stands out as odd, as though purchased sight unseen. The Charger rolls off the line in 2665.
Wait, that's supposed to be a Charger? I thought that was awesome.
The Charger
or Zeus?
To understand why, we must now sift the ashes of destroyed worlds to get a picture of the company that first put 80 tons and Scout in the same sentence, and then somehow...
Okay, I guess, yeah, that would fit as a Scout. It goes fast, it has a lot of armor. And frankly, there are missions even in the various games where that is exactly what you're looking for. But not often.
Wow, sold it.
Chapter 3. Who in the actual hell is Wells Technologies? Ah, God, that was... Chapter 2 was a very, very misleading title. It wasn't about the Amaris family. He just touched on it because it showed that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and that's why he went with it. Oh, I was hoping for more. That was just a touch on the things we already knew, just to say, hey, yeah, it's relevant. That is a dick move, Tex. Dick move. Still gonna watch more though because I like this. Wells Technologies. Oh, this is... Did they actually make an ad?
The incredibly problematic history of Wells Technologies.
They made an ad.
Very hard because at no point did Wells...
Holy crap, Tech's actually commissioned an ad for this. Neat.
Technologies ever think about the future. From what I can find, any success they made was, well, more a product of their time than their actual industrial capabilities.
In other words, they gave people the corrupt reason they need for corruption.
Is a decent record of Wells HQ and its place in history or modest fragments. But that's what...
Okay, what the hell was that? Was that dual Gauss rifles? Yeah, they even say Gauss on it. What is with the Gauss rifles having massive barrels? And... wait. Is that a dual Gauss catapult, but with Gauss rifles instead? I don't know. For all I know, it could be like a... No, it doesn't. That's the forward mount. That's a very weird mech. I love the art. And I can't quite read what it says over there. Yeah, because it's pulling down. Honestly, I'd almost say it's a cicada with 2 Gauss rifles, but that would be really stupid. And the design doesn't quite look right for the chassis. Huh. I don't know what it is, but it looks amazing.
Fragments. But that's what happens when we bomb ourselves into continually shorter versions.
I have no idea what I'm even looking at.
I didn't say
it's Grand Hall on fire.
Book because that joke is too obvious. Moving on, we must ask ourselves, why is a company that made such a product which everyone knows essentially a ghost corporation? A corporation with no background and near zero track record of success or failure in any means we can measure aside from a single flawed product. After all, it's very normal when a large corporation makes a dud, or a poor product because usually they make enough of it for everyone to point and laugh at, and when contrasted against their other factually better products, they stand out. And there are plenty of other...
Oh, it's the Hatchetman. Sorry, the in-game art I've seen for this thing looks very different.
Terrible mech designs that were never mass-produced, and so they slip beneath our notice.
What? It almost looks like this thing's supposed to be a tank that rolls, kind of like in Star Wars. But then it has legs, and I don't... What am I looking at? And also, it kind of looks funny, and I would love to pilot it just for the sheer what the hell am I looking at factor. What?
Unless serving as academic comparison. But the Charger, they made a full run of it. For a nobody like Wells Technologies to somehow succeed in the market, that's very interesting. I cannot tell you much more about Wells Technologies other than they were, and they aren't anymore, and that their mechs and manufacturing lines still survive today.
What exactly does he mean by they were, and they aren't anymore? That either implies that they're gone, which is what I initially assumed, or that they were bought up by someone else, and their lines are still going because they're still Chargers. Considering Tech's also brought in that. Is he leading up to the idea that... No, this can't be right. Is Tech's leading to the idea that Amaris was furthering the graft by getting people to do incredibly stupid shit? Basically having them poison their own well. Like, not the last Amaris, of course, but like previous Amarises, because they were... That might be why he brought them up. I have to be reading into this too much. That's way too much to say. But he is kind of hinting at the idea that, yeah, this is really shady. You know it's graft. You know it's a bunch of people throwing money at defense because it's jobs and easy pay that looks great on paper when we don't have a war going on, so it's fine. No one's going to actually need it. Am I convincing myself of this? I think I might be.
But after thoroughly examining the machine as designed, some details do emerge as to company practices and internal decisions currently lost to historical record.
Lack thereof.
Firstly, nothing on the Charger is truly sophisticated. This was not brilliantly engineered.
It just
is a big
good
mech
enough.
with the then biggest possible engine you could put in it. And that's it. The old ones almost look as though they're made out of castings and straight angles for cheap as hell mass manufacture.
Oh, so this is actually one of the early models of it. I thought this was just some weird knockoff they made based on like the 70s style art. Huh. And that would explain the straight angles you mentioned. It's literally... I was told that the external to the story reason, the in real life reason for the Charger was someone at, I think it was FAFSA at the time, I could be mistaken, going, in our internal schematics, what would it look like if we had a faster than 6 square or 6 hexagon or whatever the measurement is that can go move faster than that, but it was also an assault? What would we do if we did that? Oh, to balance it, we do it, and then they got the Charger, which had a bunch of nothing when it came to guns, except for a few small lasers. So you basically just charged people, which, you know, the name, it fits. But in lore, that apparently this is actually a representation, I'm assuming Tech's commissioned to look like it did originally. Very square.
Or to be fixed with hand tools between battles. If one were very bold, they'd see the Charger and go, this is an upscaled industrial mech for moving large or perhaps hazardous objects, and considering Wells Technologies' experience in mech design being essentially zero, that is a fair guess as any.
Honestly, it's not even a bad one, because at least in the inner sphere, after things went to shit, having a giant, uncomplicated mech that's very powerful and could probably help with that, and then also technically pick up a bunch of rebar and use it as a sword to beat people over the head, probably useful. You know, I think I found out just why the Charger design succeeded. It's just dumb enough to survive, and also would have, you know, it could work as a service mech. Huh. Actually kind of makes sense.
But it is just a guess. However, every design choice present on the initial model was made on purpose, deliberately, because the market was, at this point, the SLDF demanding everything.
And this would be everything.
Is like a blank platform to fill a checkbox and never see actual use. So unless Wells Technologies it's...
And there's the graft we talked about. It's not about actually making a mech you need. It's about buying up every possible mech to say that you did, and so no one else does.
Itself is an elaborate hoax or a fully wagered bet between eccentric industrialists to see what the government would buy in bulk sight unseen. Wells did this on purpose, thinking it was very smart, or more correctly in acceptable industry jargon, billable. Considering they were purchased in a good number, they weren't wrong.
They brought up Discount Dan and not even an ending screed. Oh my god. And it makes sense because it's literally like, hey guys, buy them all and you get a half off. Don't worry, I'm only going up the price 5%. Again. And you don't know how many times I've done it already. Don't worry, it's not going to matter. In fact, by the end of it, it's probably going to cost more than when he actually asked me the initial price. You're going to pay it anyways because there's no one else who's going to make exactly this. For good measure. No one else ever will because it's stupid. We're going to tell you that.
Further clarification from Wells Technologies headquarters is impossible at this point, as a variety of factors erase them completely from history, and I cannot deny, I suspect perhaps by a specific client. I'll get to that later. But whatever secrets they held and whatever decisions they made in detail will...
I'm just going to zoom in. I do like... There's actually even a doorknob, like, not a door, like an actual door to walk in, has a plush leather seat. Yeah, this doesn't look like a mech cockpit. This looks like a workspace that just happens to be in a mech. That's actually kind of brilliant. I love this.
Be a mystery. As far as Wells
enough room for a little bed in there.
I believe they were more a crack team of accountants than visionary engineers. As we move past Wells to examining the machine in further detail,
he has no idea what he's doing.
Explain the Charger and its continued battlefield evolution despite an ill-fated birth from a company so colossally stupid that it succeeded at erasing itself from our linear measure of existence.
Oh. And that was the next part of Tech Talks Battletech the Charger. Honestly, parts 3 and 2, going for the Amaris and then Wells, it definitely kind of puts the idea out there that, yeah, hey, you know how the company, they made one thing, it's like they had no idea what's going on. It's just a really good tax write-off, essentially. And they could just throw money at this and get other people to throw money at this because they're just going to throw money at this. It's so blatantly corrupt. And then bring up Amaris like, hey, remember how she did that entire thing where she got away after an investigation, went into, she was the intelligence service, took over another country? Seems kind of fishy, doesn't it? I honestly think that Tex is building up something by bringing up disappropriate parts that seem related just in the sense that they're both during the Star League when they're created. And I'm not entirely sure what the connection point is, but he seems to be building to something, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what that is and how that leads into this admittedly super simple mech that's just big, armored, and really big engine. It's interesting, mostly because I want to see how he's tying these threads together and how that's going to lead into the Charger is actually a decent mech. I don't see it yet, but I'm very curious because he's definitely leaving that little trail of breadcrumbs. I don't know where the trail is going. It seems to be a little schizophrenic and how it's jumping all over the place, but I just... It's like walking you through a mystery where finding out why this mech is as it is actually both the mystery and the reward of the payoff at the same time. And I'm kind of okay with that. Basically what I'm saying is, if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original video from the Black Pants Legion. Hit it up. If you haven't, do it again. If you have already, do it again. And when you're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And let me know when the next video comes out, because, I mean, I'm still going to finish this first, but I want to know, because that's cool shit, man. And YouTube doesn't always... YouTube, you guys know what I mean. It doesn't always alert you to things. So I kind of rely on you to let me know, and thank you. Everyone who goes in my Discord, all the comments letting me know, it's the only reason I find out about stuff. If people don't do it, I don't find out. I don't always respond because I'm socially awkward as F, so yeah, but I do appreciate it. So all the same, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.